Hi, it's Paula. And, well, are we on or are we not on? It's Paula. This is Richard. I'm here with Richard. I'm here with Nessa.
Hey, where are we? There's no pictures of us, so we gotta.
Jason. I'm here with James, and
Lauren.
LAU.
It's always something in my brain. Lauren. All right, so we're here, and I don't have anything to read today because I was busy all day. I was all over the place, but I did go to the No Kings rally downtown with my good friend Jane Sadowski, and we didn't have signs or anything, but we did go hang out and we did chant. So
What did you chant?
We No Kings and Hell no, so I don't know. You'll have to listen. So this one here, we have a nice poster. People were very creative with their posters. This one I thought was a lot of fun. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. And
Tomorrow is Father's Day and Jim Jones' dad, so you should drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. So is there another one there, Tom? Oh, Tom and my son Tom on drums. Okay. Oh yeah, this is a friend of mine, and he actually drew this. It's King of Turds. This throne's for you, and it's a Trump toilet. And so that's Alan, who is my friend Renee's boyfriend, and they were there. I ran into them.
I don't know about you, but a solid gold plated toilet, I would be proud to make a dump in that. That's class. Just like a well done steak with ketchup on it. That's class.
You're beautiful. Okay, so there were so many people there, and I just tried to take pictures of some signs that I liked. There was one I took a picture of it, but I didn't get the whole thing. It was "You're so vain, you probably think this rally's about you."
Well, think of Dumb Donnie this way.
And this is Nero. So
fiddling while Rome burns.
Yeah.
Trump, Dumb Donnie he's all charisma, and what Don Jr. and what J.D. Vance don't have is any charisma.
I agree.
He's like a tornado, and if you ever have you ever had the hazard of being around a tornado?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you know what happens when it's done? It just dissipates and it's gone.
Do you know what I realized today? If the Democrats would have been nicer to Trump, we might have him on our side right now, because all he wanted to do is be loved and appreciated. And if the Democrats would have done that for him, he'd be a Democrat. He'd be a Democratic president doing everything that we're telling him to do.
Well, the way you look at it is the Democratic Party have a golden opportunity, a platinum opportunity to just kick everything in the nuts. And all they got to do is be normal. And they can't even do that. Because it's like going out with...
normal.
No, just sit there and be quiet. That's all. Let them trip over their own failures.
The constituents, though, want them to speak out. This is part of the problem. The people are contacting them saying, "Why aren't you doing something about this? Why aren't you saying anything? Why aren't you, being there for us?"
Well, that's because the model minority of the white people. The white non-Jews is they think they're being left behind. That's why that's the populist appeal.
Do you know what I saw today, which really fascinated me? I saw a priest, I saw a rabbi, and
joke.
No, I mean
a priest, a rabbi, a priest, a rabbi, and an imam walk into a bar.
A woman, maybe Episcopal, reverend or whatever you call them. Mm-hmm. I saw them. They were
at the rally.
Yeah, they were at the rally, and I thought, and I almost talked to the priest, and then I said, I don't think...
Why? Do you have a confession to make?
Look at this beautiful painting. This was on a canvas. This person made this thing. I can't really...
like a skull?
I don't know, but it was really well done, and it must have been heavy. But, there were a lot of older people, but there were also a lot of young people and kids. People brought their kids.
Well, I mean, that... what was the thesis of Clash of the Titans? That the Greek gods were losing their power because people weren't adoring them and worshiping them anymore. They needed the people's worship to stay powerful. When they stopped doing that, and that's what the same thing is. That Dumb Donnie is the scuzziest, dirtiest, nastiest piece of shit surrounded by the most incompetent people. But below that cadre of the absolute idiots are highly competent, highly efficient people that are taking chaos and making order out of it, and they're fulfilling his orders amazingly efficiently.
I think Trump is. That's why he's backing off of all of these severe things that he does.
Taco.
But I think it's because in his heart of hearts, he really wants to be loved, and he's not. He thought this was going to make him loved because of his base, because his base likes this, and because his base likes this chaotic, crazy guy. But I'm not saying I feel sorry for him, but I am saying that there's a damaged person that's running our country right now.
Oh, absolutely. And
yeah. So no crowns, no kings.
Well, I might run for a third term. Or, we won 3 elections, he said. Because he said it himself. There's no way he could have lost.
Yeah, I know. And he believes that because he has to. Because if he would have, it's why he doesn't lose any tournaments when he's playing golf.
Right, like Kim Jong-un.
But look at all these people. There were, I don't know. I'd be curious to know how many people showed up today. There were quite a few.
Well, what's the good thing is that they're all just Americans. It's not splintered into splinter groups like, Catholics for this and Hispanics for that, because everybody together, because it's like the Queers for Palestine, and the Palestinians said,
oh my
if you
God.
came here, we'd kill you.
Absolutely. There's a problem with that. I mean, I don't agree with what's going on in the Middle East, but I know that gay people are not welcome by any of the Arab countries. They don't like
any
them.
Abrahamic religion.
They do not
basically.
like them. So
It's in the Bible,
and
which they all respect.
In the Old Testament, which also says if you put linen and cotton together, you should be put to death.
That's exactly. I use that analogy all the time. So
tattoos.
So are you going to not
seafood.
put any 2 fabrics together? That you can't. It's an abomination.
Yeah.
And so you can't.
Poly cotton blend.
Can you have to knit. You have to pick the little pieces out of the Bible in order to get them to agree with you, and you can make them, as you know, Richard. You were in the seminary. There's things in the Old Testament that will be an argument for any argument you're trying to make.
Well, like in the mid-1800s, slavery, that was ordained by God.
Yeah.
And that's what they you can see their argument, you can lay it down and say, wow, that makes sense, because they picked and chose what they wanted.
Exactly.
Well, if the New Testament was supposed to negate the Old Testament, the believers of the New Testament go back to the Old Testament to justify things, but technically they can't do that.
Jesus didn't like.
Right.
Yeah, right. That Jesus was against. So what you look like you have something to add to this discussion here.
Well, the New Testament is very backwards as well.
Oh, yeah.
The whole damn thing's backwards, and it's all
My biggest
fairy
beef with the
tales,
New
so-
Testament is when Jesus said, "The poor will always be with you."
That's true. But he also said
I would raise my hand and say, what about us trying to build a society where there are no poor?
Yeah.
What about Joel Osteen's prosperity gospel?
Yeah, the gospel of prosperity. Yeah, that.
If anything, if we made a movie about this, Richard. If Jesus came back,
he'd look like he was crazy.
He'd punch the shit out of these people.
He sure would. Yeah.
This is not. It's taking the pieces of the words that are in there and using them for your benefit.
It's cherry picking, and they selectively pick.
But think about people. Really, what would happen if somebody said, "I'm another servant of God. I've been brought to earth," and we'd say, "Are you mentally ill?"
Also, it's Jim Jones who is dad.
So is Koresh. I mean, that's
Koresh ain't dead. There's only one dad. It's Jim Jones.
People always.
Oh, I thought you said it was dead.
Yeah.
Dad, D-A-D. That's what his nickname was. So tomorrow was his day.
Greg and I were talking about this today. There are marginalized people who are very easy to pick out of the world and get to believe, like with the lyric from Steely Dan.
Ooh.
Any world that I'm welcome to is better than the one I come from. These marginalized people will follow somebody who tells them that they're good and they're strong and they're, God loves them and blah, blah, blah.
It's like what Springsteen said on Reason to Believe on Nebraska. People need a reason to believe.
Yeah, I know, and I think that
Do you know how you make a radical?
there are people that believe Trump is the second coming.
Do you know
Of
how
what?
you make
Religious?
Hitler?
Yes,
Of Hitler?
Well,
no,
Do you-
unfortunately.
do you know how you make a radical? You
I don't
educate a
know.
man and don't give him a job. Because that's why when now you got brains and you're sitting home all day. Why do you think people protest on Tuesdays and Wednesdays in the Middle East? Because they don't have a job.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know that it felt good to be among people that were, they were fighting for something. Not fighting, but they were protesting
Striving.
for something, striving for something. They could see through all of this, and they were there to support the cause. But I don't know how much. What do you think about protests? Do you think there's?
I think they're effective.
You think that, because the people that are above the politicians that are from Buffalo, they take a look at this, and I don't know. Does it help? Does it help?
I'm reminded of a story. People were it was the 1970s, and people were doing a protest around the White House.
Yeah.
They said, let's do a candlelight parade, and we will, go in front of the White House. And if you listen to the tapes of Nixon, he says specifically in there, these protesters are driving me crazy.
These pretzels are making me thirsty.
Hi, Lou.
You need some whiskey?
Welcome.
That was a Seinfeld quote. That was Kramer's line.
I know, we say that all the time. These pretzels are making me thirsty. So that's good. That's a good thing. And I haven't protested anything, Richard, since I was in high school.
Well, youth is wasted on the young. You have the ideas when you're older, but the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak.
I was limping back to the train. We have to take the train one stop to get to where we parked. It's like I was really glad I did it, but I was really limping back to the train. But the people that were there, it seemed like they came in waves. Like it was really crowded at 4, and then some people were leaving, and some new people were coming in. So it seemed like there were hundreds of people.
Were
there.
they coming from the Allentown Art Festival?
No.
Oh, okay.
This was a whole separate deal.
But what I mean though is, were they filtering in from there?
I think that they were specifically coming for this.
Well, that one, if it was lithoed, it wouldn't be that heavy. The person that was carrying the thing.
The thing, yeah. But I don't know. It's true. It's true. So I didn't think of that. But anyway, so it was an interesting experience, and I'm glad I went. And I also went to the Dragon Boat races, which was part of the Hope Chest. It's a breast cancer survivors, and Gloria was in the race. She was in one of these dragon boats paddling with her sister, who also was a breast cancer survivor.
So the people who could paddle the fastest would win the race.
They won. Yeah, I can send something
Do you pedal with your feet?
No, it's like a crew team.
So Gloria went from being on chemotherapy to now being in races?
In the hot sun?
She was in. I can send this. I'm going to send this to. Where did I? Okay, I'll send this one. I think this is the one that she lost the race, but I'm going to send this to Richard, so that we can show this, because I thought this was really cool that they did this.
But the race goes not to the swiftest, but those who keep on running.
Is that a parable
Perhaps,
or a
if you're-
proverb?
Somebody said that. I don't know who it
Yeah.
was, but it wasn't me.
But I sent you that link there, Tom, to Richard's account. So she was in this. Yeah, she was in the boat, and there was only 2 boats racing. They were all the cancer survivors racing.
Those are the only
together.
survivors.
There were only 2 boats?
No, there were more.
You are considered a cancer survivor if you survive 5 years.
Yeah, so there were more.
Thank
There
you.
were more teams that raced each other, but this was just one particular team that they had 2 boats that were racing.
Oh. So there might be other, categories of people in boats.
Right, and some of them were in support of cancer survivors. This was out by what is that called? Riverworks.
Oh.
So Gloria was in the second boat that's falling behind a little bit.
Gloria, the last taboo was shattered by her tongue one night.
Oh, there's my hand, because of course I got to put my hand in there.
You're pointing to the boat.
Yeah, that's a boat.
Yeah.
No, you're pointing to the one so we would know which one it was.
So I had.
See, that's why you did that.
I stood next to this man who was.
It looks like one boat is illuminated and the other one is in shadow.
It's that.
Oh, it's
those
monochrome.
pink. It's those pink shirts. That they're like glow in the daylight pink shirts.
That's very cosmopolitan of
Yeah,
them.
but the man I was standing next to, he was a Desert Storm. He was in the Navy. He met his wife in the Navy. The wife ended up having to retire because they got married and she got pregnant. But the thing is, both of them are fighting for benefits that they should have had based on conditions that they have now that are, interfering with their life. And both of them have these lawsuits against the VA trying to get their benefits. And I don't know, I didn't talk to him about politics. I was very curious to know if he was a Trump supporter. But
This is exactly my job. What you're talking about, this is exactly what I do. And it was a preponderance of people were Trump supporters. And
you don't understand it either. I know.
But I didn't say anything,
No.
But that's the thing about the Gulf War syndrome, that what the VA does is said there's nothing there, there's nothing there, until they say, well, I guess there was. And the double banger is the people that had the Marines that were at Camp Lejeune, and then...
Well, he has hearing loss.
Well, that's
a lot of hearing loss. He also has asthma. And he said that they were breathing in a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, both of those things he feels he should be getting some kind of compensation for, and he hasn't. So he was a very nice guy. He was Southern, but he lives around here someplace.
Let me tell you one thing with the hearing loss. What they do is you get a hearing test, and you have to have plausibly something you did in the service, like if you were a gunner's mate and you didn't do anything out of the service.
Well, you know what they told him? They said because they gave him hearing aids that corrected his hearing, they don't owe him anything else.
Because it's what the audiogram shows.
Well, that's what happened, and that's what he told me at least. And so anyway, I had a nice conversation with him.
I listened to a lecture by a sociologist, and her specialty is Navy romances.
Oh,
Navy romances.
Yeah, 100.
I thought it was like the one that if the ship's away, it isn't gay.
100 guys go out to sea and 50 couples come back.
And the reason that she specializes in it, they're unlike any other military romances.
and
Of course
did she
they
say
are.
why?
It's a special
Because they're
branch.
self-contained on a ship.
Oh, that's true.
And there's very strict rules about, for example, if you sit next to a female, you have to have the distance of one butt away. You can't sit like this.
Wow.
So what the sociologist said is an interesting phenomena takes place. You're not allowed to proclaim your love for somebody where other service people can hear you.
Yeah.
So you're not allowed to write romantic notes to the person who you care for. And she said that the whole situation aboard a ship sort of devolves into like grammar school.
It's like,
did you hear that so-and-so likes you?
it's like, but it's like the tension that can't be resolved.
Yeah.
So it's like in the old times when you would have to go out with a
Chaperone.
Thank you, with a chaperone.
Very similar.
And you couldn't really cozy up to each other, and so the whole courtship was like, sparks, but no ignition.
Well, the biggest one that you didn't mention was enlisted an officer, because that's actually that's a crime under the UCMJ.
Well, it's just like a boss and an employee. You can't do that. It's against labor laws.
But I'm saying that would be a civil thing.
Yeah.
These people could be, and they will. The officer will be the one who goes on trial. It won't be the enlisted.
Right, because he's the one with the power.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
And so yeah, it's remarkable. But have a lot of anecdotes about that. Like the first ship that had women on board was the USS Samuel Gompers, and the CO at the time was Charles Creekman. Chuck Creekman finished first in his class at Annapolis in 1970. He finished as a valedictorian of his class at Annapolis, and his ship was the first one
Wow.
because he was more open-minded than somebody who finishes like John McCain, fourth from the bottom.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know. I just thought his story was so interesting, and I would have never gotten to talk to somebody like that unless I just had a conversation with somebody standing next to me by accident. Because his wife was not a cancer survivor, but she was part of the people that are supporting the cancer survivors. So it was interesting.
Did he make a career of the Navy?
He tried to, but because of his hearing loss, they kicked him out.
You know how many years he had? Did he tell you?
No, he did
Because
not.
if it's 10 years, okay. But if you're at 18 years and they boot you out, that sucks.
Yeah, I
That
don't-
sucks.
I don't
You're
know how
close
many.
to the finish line.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
you're
don't
so
know.
close.
So So did you have anything on your list today? I'm sure
Oh,
you do.
sure. This is something that I came across in an editorial, and I thought, oh, this is well written, and I'd like to read an excerpt from it.
Sure.
Some hormonal teenage boy Googles, how do I get a girlfriend? And gets exposed to seemingly innocuous self-improvement videos that slowly warp him with tales of the problem with modern women and feminism is toxic. Once they've been taught to despise an entire gender, they can be taught to hate anyone.
That's incel in a bottle.
Wasn't that a police song?
No, it's Christina Aguilera song.
Oh yeah,
Incel in a bottle.
message in a bottle, genie in a bottle.
Weenie in a bottle.
Yeah.
James,
Take care of the
you have any
situation.
I'm sure he
comment on
does.
that, James?
You know my comment on that.
No, we want.
Hey, put your microphone down. We can't hear you.
Yeah, we want to hear you though, James.
Well, if I can be handed my phone, I can tell you my response that I gave to you when you texted me this.
Because you put thought into it before
He
you
did,
wrote it.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
Because I look at that as its own form of propaganda, because my reply is some gullible girl gets bombarded by messaging that calls masculinity toxic, traditional family dynamics a social construct, and patriarchy evil and oppressive. Her mind is slowly warped into despising everything and anyone who tries to help her align herself with time-tested paths to successful lives. And once you have taught her to despise her entire way of harmonious existence, she can now be taught to hate anything while living a no-win life of misery.
I gotta put my headset back on. I took my earring off. It was bothering my ear. I think that's fair. I do. I mean, I think it's.
Is it fair and balanced?
I think that you are giving the opposite end of that, but you have different ideas about what women actually want as opposed to what they think they want.
I would disagree with that to say women don't know what the fuck they want anyway. But
No, that's bullshit.
Dude,
But-
dude.
But-
damn it!
but
You want me to
there-
go deaf? Dude.
But there are time-tested pathways that lead to a more successful life for both men and women. And if there were men out there propagandizing other men to say that spending time with women is horrible and toxic, and you really shouldn't be trying to have a family and legacy and doing things for anyone other than yourself, and your pleasure is prime, people would call that a bad thing.
Well, I know because you speak one thing, but I know that every woman you've ever brought here is a charming person. Every woman you've ever brought
Like
here.
Lauren, who sits here silently.
like Lauren, but I mean, smart, charming. Every woman you've ever brought here. Yet when you send me those things, and you show me what people are, these women are saying and want, I want to take those women and I want to wash their mouth out with soap.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because my point is there's this ethic that women are wonderful, do no wrong, and when they do, there's a good reason.
No. See,
and my
yeah.
point is, no, there are evil women out there.
Yes.
Period.
Of course,
And it would
there
be
are
nice for people
and there are
to
evil
agree
men
with
out
that.
there.
Nobody argues that there are evil men.
right.
This is my point with you. Nobody argues that there are
Oh,
evil men.
I don't think anybody argues that there are evil women.
Oh, but they do.
Yellow says there are.
No, evil woman, don't away
Score.
with me. Bum, 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 bum.
Evil woman.
Yeah. So, I don't. I think that yes, there are evil women. There are women who I would not want to be
Oh, don't
friends
forget Black
with.
Sabbath,
Yeah.
covering Crow, evil woman. Don't
Yeah.
play those games with me.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking. So the thing is, I feel like I don't know any. I'm very particular about the women I'm friends with because I don't like the kind of women you send me the posts.
Well, since I have no idea what you're talking about, your
they're
private conversation is.
No, you know what they are? They're very high maintenance, very ugly acting, sounding, grabbing, vicious women.
Well, you reap as you sow. If you look for that, you're going to find it. You know,
Well,
you find
that's what I always
you
say.
find what you look for, and if you think, and
if that's your worldview, that's what you. That's what
why do you
find.
think we became bitter in the emergency department? Why do you think police are like they are? Because we deal with the dregs every day, the lowest 2% of society.
Yeah.
And we extrapolate that to the other 98%, which we don't see.
Yeah.
But nobody tells you that it doesn't exist.
Well, that's gaslighting.
Yeah. I don't think that there's no women that I know that think that evil women don't exist. I mean, first of all, all my friends are readers, and there's a lot of those women in the books that we read,
Again, my point is that the general public always looks to excuse any bad thing that a woman does.
I think in the media a lot of times I think
Not anymore.
And the court system.
I do think that's. But the thing is, if they would come dressed like these women that you're sending me, that judge would look at them and say, "Out of my courtroom and go home and put some clothes on."
Well, but the true story is, if you want to get executed, be black and be male and be in Texas. Then you will definitely get the needle. Out of the 600 people that have been executed since '76, less than 10 have been women.
Well, and we could also argue that. I mean, how many really? Are there any female mass murderers?
Aileen Wuornos, that we know of, she killed 9 guys. She said every single one of them raped her, and she killed them in self-defense.
All right,
but that was the one played by.
But that was her story.
Yeah, that was her story, and then right to the point she rode the lightning, no, she got the needle.
All right, okay, because most of the time you hear about mass murderers, it's men.
4 out of 5.
Men have more testosterone.
Well, 4 out of 5 antisocials are male, and 4 out of 5 borderlines are female. But Aileen Wuornos had the antisocial personality disorder. She's one of the few women that have it.
Yeah.
But it exists. In a world of 8 billion people, there's going to be literally 1 million people that have throughout the world that have
you
that.
were going to say something, James. You had your hand up there.
I missed it. Go ahead.
Recently, there was a nurse who killed 20 patients by overdosing them with insulin. And
She did it on purpose, is what you're saying.
You don't do that by accident.
Okay. Yeah,
And
and
she, because it was 20 grandparents, she got life in prison. But most of the time, they're excused into some ridiculous situation. Like, I believe I once, years ago, sent you the story of this woman who had a babysitting business. A father came to pick up his son from the daycare.
Yeah.
And his son was nowhere to be seen with the other kids. So he went to ask the woman, "Where's my son?" And she begins with,
I ate him.
"Let me tell you what happened." The son, hearing his father's voice, starts screaming for his dad. He's in the basement. So the father goes running down in the basement to find his son, swinging from a noose attached to a water pipe
How could he
in
scream?
the floor. Because the woman, thankfully, didn't go to campfire and learn how to tie a real fucking noose. So, it caught, and he was hanging from this noose. He was able to get his fingers into the rope and hold himself there without losing consciousness. The father loosens him from the noose, and thankfully, the only thought in his mind was to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
Because, pardon me, I don't know. I might want to do something before I leave. Anyway, he takes the kid. He just wants to get home. The woman, thinking, this could be a bad thing, she abandons all the children that she's caring for, hops in her minivan, and tries to jet out of there. While she's jackrabbiting in reverse, she hits a guy passing by on a bike. His bike gets jammed under the van. He's trapped under the van. She drives off anyway, drags him for miles.
Well, there wouldn't be much left of him after a couple miles.
Thankfully, the pedal and the wheel were taking more of the dragging than his body. So he didn't die either. Some guardian angel was working overtime here. The police catch up with her because, look at that van, what's under the van? They stop her, arrest her, and she was given 2 years probation.
Yeah,
Now,
that's ridiculous.
Here's the even more ridiculous part. The parents of the other children, of course, pulled them out of her care.
Of course.
But the state that licenses
did
not.
She was licensed?
She was a licensed daycare center.
What state was this in?
Michigan.
Oh, God.
They did not suspend her. They did not fine her, and they did not take her license. 6 months later, they asked her not to renew.
Well, I see. You do have a fine collection of horror stories.
But my point is simply this: you cannot argue
I
that
can't.
women are not treated specially when
think
shit like that happens.
Yeah, that was outrageous. I agree with you. I agree with you. That was outrageous, and I'm sorry that happened. But I do think, just like Jason had said, if you have billions of people, there's going to be a percentage of people that are just big assholes. So I mean, but
my point is,
a woman shouldn't get away with that. That should have been something that woman had to do time for.
My point is, if the father had so much to slapped her on the way out, he would be doing more.
Well, that's
time.
conjecture, and I don't want to go to the conjecture. I don't want to. So
he was a black male, and the reason why his son was hanging from a pipe under because he was a black male.
Well, I was thinking, I had a patient in South Carolina who was a black male who looked like a white guy after he had road rash so bad on his motorcycle that it took most of his skin off. He looked pink. So I remember that. I don't know why I didn't call surgery. I managed that patient myself. I don't know why I didn't call surgery. But then again, it's 18 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I hope he didn't get back on his bike. But Detroit is, I think Delta City's a good idea. From RoboCop, just tear it down and build it over it like Mexico City was built on Tenochtitlan. Just build on top of it. RoboCop was a movie from 1986 about a police officer who's made into a robot, and the idea is Detroit is going to be made into Delta City. They're just giving up on Detroit and building Delta City on top of it, just like they did in Mexico City.
Okay, I thought the story sounded a little over the top, but I looked it up, and you that was true.
The RoboCop thing?
I don't know. I just looked. I wanted to know for sure because it sounded wrong. It
Imagine
sounded,
that.
no, it sounded like she should have been put in prison, but she did get, she got probation. What if that was bad?
It's good to have an open mind, but not so open that your brains fall out.
Yeah, true.
I find the probation thing just de rigueur. What really torques me off is they didn't even take any action
To
against
take her license. That's the
the
thing.
least you would think.
I have
they would
I have a
do.
friend who works. I have a friend who works for a New York State child and family services stuff, and I mean the stuff that she sees when she goes in the houses is pretty abysmal. And it's it's usually the mom who's on drugs or just. I don't know. It's awful. I don't understand why people have. See, that's the thing. Not everyone should have children. Not every woman wants kids. And if you don't want kids, guess what? You're not going to be a good mother. So you should be allowed to not
But
do
they
that.
do
We're
with
the
the child
greenest
support
people.
payment and the other perks. But what kills me about that whole license thing is I know a guy who happens to be a black male who was a nurse. And on his floor was an elderly woman who was a do not resuscitate. And she coded. Just so happened that some of her family were visiting.
Right.
So they hit the
Yeah.
alarm. And because she's a do not resuscitate, the guy's like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
So the granddaughter runs down and tells him, my grandmother's machines are going crazy. You got to come down here. He happened to be reading a book at the time. So he gets to the point where he feels this is a good jumping off point, goes down to the room, and when he gets there, the granddaughter says, I think my grandmother is dead. And he checks her vitals and says, yup, and leaves. For this, his nurse's license was taken.
What state was this in?
New York.
You know what it takes to lose your nursing license in New York? Short of literally.
This is my point.
I
This
mean-
guy lost his license for saying yup. Whereas that little lady gets to keep her daycare license.
Yeah. Yeah. I think.
Please don't renew.
I think that it does show the inequities in the system, and I am sorry that these things happen, but my brain is exploding now. so I does. Jason, did you have anything that you wanted to talk about today? Since
No, I've just been interested the things. I didn't have anything specific. But if you want, I'll come up with something extemporaneously.
I believe that so much. I mean, we just saw each other yesterday. We had lots of
and
conversation.
A whole bunch of nothing happens between then and now.
Yeah, that's true. I had a very, very busy day.
I didn't. I couldn't fall asleep. I took a nap at 4:30 till 6, but that was the first sleep I've had since Thursday night.
I'm sorry because that must be terrible.
No, it was
I take something to sleep every night. So
What do you take?
I take
the big D.
I take a
Diphenhydramine.
I don't no, not that. I take citracycline. It's a muscle relaxer.
Oh, cyclobenzaprine? Yeah, that's Flexeril. Flexeril is a great thing to get high on. You just feel like you're Jello, and you just lay there.
I take 2.5 milligrams.
That's nothing.
I cut a tiny pill in half.
Yeah.
And I take a melatonin gummy. That's how I sleep, and it's been great because the lack of sleep is what exacerbates the fibromyalgia because your body doesn't have a chance to heal. So now that I'm sleeping better, I was on a study, and they were using that drug, but dissolved under the tongue.
Yeah, ODT, orally disintegrating tablet.
Right. So but I got canker sores on my tongue, so I had to stop doing it. But it was working, so I told my doctor, and he wouldn't give it to me at first because it was off.
Off-label.
Right. They haven't figured out. But anyway, it works for me. So that's how I figured out how it works. And I like it, and it works.
Well, anything short of, if I have to take something to sleep, anything short of Halcyon or Ambien ain't doing nothing.
Ambien, Greg took Ambien once, and he slept walked. He went outside. He had his wallet filled
Yeah.
with cash in his hands, and he walked down the street. His pants were falling down, and his eyes were open, but he was asleep. And I got up, and he was gone. And I'm looking for him, and that's when before he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And I had to get out and get in my car, and I found him, and he's walking there like this, like with his wallet as an offering to any creep who'd come upon him.
Well, that's one of the things that's known, that people that in the stage 3 testing of Ambien, they sleep sexts, they sleep 8, they ate dirt like pica, that they did all those.
Yeah, all kinds of crazy things. Yeah. He only took it once. That was it. That was it.
Although I wasn't on anything, but this was about 11 years ago, so it was just after we got married, and the wife said I woke up, and I sat up in bed, rail straight, and I said, Honoré de Balzac. Then I said, ball sack, ball sack, ball sack. And she said, what? You're not even awake, are you? And then I just laid down and went back to sleep.
Yeah, I don't know. Have you ever had any situations where you talked in your sleep or walked in your sleep, or?
Not that you know of.
I know people that get up in the middle of the night. They're asleep and they go in the refrigerator and eat.
Yeah, or they will eat non-edible things.
I have
like
a friend.
Yeah.
I have a friend who was taking Ambien, and the day she stopped was the day that she came down to the kitchen for breakfast and found that in the night she had gone into the refrigerator, got out a bunch of condiments, and
Oh my God.
Ate them all.
she spread them all on a diaper.
Oh no.
And she's like, I guess I couldn't find something I wanted because I abandoned the project. And on the counter was the diaper spread up with mustard and ketchup and mayonnaise. And
Oh my God.
garnished with pickles.
Sounds like a work of art.
She's like, I guess there wasn't any turkey. I don't know.
What was that line from Anchorman? It smells like a diaper full of Indian food.
Oh boy. So no sleep. You don't have sleep problems.
Thankfully, no.
Yeah. I feel so grateful that I can sleep now because I know what it's like to
Well,
not be able to.
What did I say yesterday?
Our friend whose birthday it was
Yeah.
pretty much asked Jason, what do I do? I'm only sleeping a few hours a night.
And I said that's not my area.
Yeah.
Because
Well-
I'd be remiss to make something up. But people that say that insomnia or constipation aren't really bad have never had either one.
Yeah,
And that is
exactly.
absolutely untrue. Because being constipated, or being truly insomniac is hell on earth.
It
you
is.
wish you
It's
were
terrible.
dead.
It's your quality of life is predicated on being able to, sleep so you can heal and
Well,
regroup
yeah.
and then pass out that food that you've eaten. That's the beauty of life. I tell people now, it's like the idea that you can eat and eat and eat and not get rid of anything. I mean, not only is it the food you're eating, the leftovers of the food, it's stuff that dies in your body that you have to, right? Isn't that what happens?
Well, that's
Like shedding of
Yeah,
stuff?
Well, no, that
Blood
comes
cells.
off. It's an ablative coating in the stomach and further down, because that's why when you have reflux it hurts, because it's simple columnar epithelium in the esophagus. It's not supposed to be exposed to the acid, but the stomach is like leather and it's meant to shed off the cells.
Yeah, right.
And that's why the same mucus that comes out of your butt is the same as out of your nose. That your GI tract starts here.
I'm glad it's not exactly the same.
No, it is. It's
Oh,
exact.
no, I know. I'm
this is the beginning, and the dentate line in your
Did I-
butt is where it ends.
Did I tell you how I minimized my GERD?
I think you did, but I don't remember.
Zinc L-carcinine. It's something that they give as a prescription drug in Japan, 72-day course. And the thing is, it works for ulcers. And the thing was, I said, I don't have ulcers. I did have ulcers at one point. But I said, I'm going to try it. And I've been taking it every single day. And my GERD is like 20% of what it was.
Huh. I was on pantoprazole for a year, and then I ran out of it, and I've needed Tums once since then.
Oh, see,
And,
that's not the case for me. I had a
And
It doesn't matter though because I fixed it. I
eat
fixed
tomatoes.
that too.
Did you say it has arsenic in it?
No arsenic. L-carcinine.
L-carnitine.
Okay, I don't think there's a T in it. L-carcinine, I think it is. Zinc out. I can look it up. But that's that I read about it. I read about it in a medical journal that talked about how it's used for ulcers in Japan. You can't get it over the counter in Japan.
Well, in Japan also they have the lowest incidence of stomach cancer because they scope everybody, so they find it early.
Vanessa, how's the quality of your sleep?
Bad, I
It's
think.
better now because all I
has it?
want to do is sleep. It was either I can't sleep or that's all I want to do.
Well, that's better. Being able to sleep is better than not.
Yeah.
Trust me, I know.
That's what it is.
James, how's the quality of your sleep?
Yeah. That's the
Depends on the day.
L-carnitine is the
Lately.
carcinine and the carnitine are.
How about the past
one's
7
made into the
days?
other, but I can't remember which way the pathway goes.
Well, there are days that I slept 6 hours and got 90 minutes of deep sleep. And then there are the nights where I only got 2 hours of sleep.
Well, the good thing is if you don't get enough REM sleep, you can save it up. So if you keep getting woken up, and then you get a night, you'll just dream all damn night.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I do have dreams, but I only remember the ones.
You only remember 5 to 10%
Yeah,
of your
when
dreams.
I'm waking up,
Yeah, because
yeah.
you have to be woken up right in the dream. That's the only thing you'll remember.
That's why when our friend has those long, engaging dreams, I can't even believe that he can remember that much of it. You know, that seems to me that's so stupendous to be able to remember all that detail.
That's like the lucid dreaming.
I like lucid. I've done it. You know what I do? As soon as I figure out I'm dreaming, I fly.
Yeah, and I could never cross that in my dreams. I couldn't cross that line. I told myself I can't fly.
Oh no! I'm dreaming, and I'll jump. At one time I was dreaming something, and I thought I said, "Oh, I'm dreaming." So I was in a board meeting at work.
And you mooned them.
No, I got up on the desk and I started stripping on the desk.
Okay.
And I kept telling them what assholes they all were, and I was stripping on the desk. And then I realized at some point, oh my God, what if this isn't a dream? So I said, just like this, never mind. And I sat down, and then I woke up and I said, shit, I could have gone the whole way.
That was the thesis to that show that had Jason Isaacs in it about 10 years ago. It only lasted one season, and I think it was called Blink. But where either one, he didn't know when he was awake and he was sleeping, because when he flipped from one was a dream, one was real, but he didn't know which was which, because one, his wife was alive,
boy.
and one, his son was alive. So that's the thing. He didn't know which was which, but they built on each other so that he solved one crime in the one.
Oh yeah, I didn't know about that show.
Lauren, have you been sleeping good?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you don't have you go to sleep and you fall right to sleep, don't you?
How'd you know? You get about
Because you're so calm. Yeah.
I get about 9 hours a night.
I like 9 hours too. 9
That's what you
hours is
do.
my sweet spot.
23 hours is pretty good.
Lauren, do you have advice for people with insomnia?
Don't have it?
No.
Yeah.
Red wine, yeah.
Oh, if I drink, I don't have restful sleep.
I don't either. I wake up in 4 hours and I can't fall back to sleep.
Well, I'll sleep the night, but I will still be fatigued, and I have to sleep the next night. And
Yeah. No, I won't.
that's
I
why
can't.
2020 was a lost year for me.
So, Richard, we must have something else on our list here.
Okay.
Story.
I like the Wall Street Journal because they will often give you statistics, and I like to interpret them. So
Okay.
listen to these statistics. August 2023, there were 10,000 driverless cab rides. Okay?
Yeah.
May 2023, there were 50,000.
Wow.
August of 2024, there were 100,000. And as of May of
Per
this
week.
year,
Driverless cab rides per week, this
Yeah.
says. Oh, my God.
250,000 driverless cab rides per week. How would you feel about getting into a cab that had no driver?
Wouldn't do it.
I would.
I would feel like, I'm going to wait.
The problem is, there's still people that are driving and the driverless, because when they're all driverless, that the technology will be better, and then there's nothing to lose. But everybody thinks they're the best driver. every human thinks they're the best driver.
Yeah. Well,
Really? I think I'm horrible, but I drive.
You are the outlier because everybody
As
will say, "Oh, I'm a
usual.
great driver."
well, no, I've known
Honest,
other
yeah.
people. I have my Kenny. Kenny knew he was a bad driver. He was the worst driver I've ever driven with, and that was. But and some other I have other friends who are just bad drivers because they're very distracted all the time, and it makes me very nervous.
Do you feel uncomfortable if the person driving and you're a passenger yells and curses at other drivers?
Yes,
I
yes.
do.
Yeah, I don't.
I think that's
I
a
don't.
bad
That's
sign.
I don't have road
aggressive
rage
driving.
anymore. I did. I don't have it anymore. I'm very calm. Of course, I'm not rushing to get someplace anymore either because I'm retired.
So I thought you had a job.
I have a contract job that I don't think I'll ever get a client because now with people not being able to come here from foreign countries,
okay.
I think that may have
The factory has no raw materials.
yeah. I have been looking every day. I look on my work email, but there's nothing comes through. So, and I probably jumped the gun on that anyway because I got a lot to do. Greg's mother's in rehab. I went there today, and they're probably going to have to keep her in the nursing home. So that's another step.
Is the quality of her mind decreasing or staying the same?
It's not her mind that's the problem now. She has a catheter, and they can't take her off the catheter because she's got neurogenic bladder.
Meaning she lost control?
It's a nervous system
She
thing.
can't pee. They take the catheter out, and she'll just.
She can't.
The neurogenic bladder will fill up, and it'll only empty at overflow.
She will pee a little bit, but she's still got a full bladder.
Yeah, and the overflow incontinence that's a pain in the ass because you can't predict it. But also on the flip side, you'll stretch the bladder out so you can hold more. 30 years ago, I could hold 2 liters in my bladder. The average bladder can hold 450 milliliters. Yeah, and that was. Do you know how many free drinks that was? Because whoever broke the seal first, whoever went to the bathroom first, had to buy the next round.
Yeah, no,
I never had to buy the next round.
Vanessa, would you get into a cab that had no driver?
I don't know. Maybe.
I think driverless cars are going to be great for people with disabilities.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's going to be like a godsend for people who couldn't drive themselves. So some of the people that I worked with as a job coach, they weren't able to get driver's license because of different aspects of why they were disabled. So if they could, and sometimes they had money, they could have bought a car, but they can't drive. Like Nancy, who was a friend of our friend and somebody that I was a coach for.
Nancy wanted to drive?
She couldn't drive, but she could afford a car. She would buy things for her group home all the time, like a gazebo or something, because she was working, plus she was getting her disability. And anyway, I think it's a good thing. I would do it with trepidation.
Yeah.
But I would do it.
I'd get in there freely. I'd just get my ass in the seat and go.
Would you do it, Richard? You said you'd want to wait.
I understand exactly how you feel. I feel the same way. Like, it would take a lot of persuading for me to get in that vehicle with no driver.
Well, it was like the Johnny Cab in Total Recall. Just drive. Arnold Schwarzenegger says, just drive. And then Johnny Cab says, I need an address. And what was funny was the guy who did the voice for the Johnny Cab was the guy who played the EMH on Star Trek Voyager. So the rendition of the doll looked like him.
Oh, haha. The doll that was driving.
Yeah.
The driverless.
Yeah, and that's he says, just drive. It says, I need a destination.
And James, would you get into a driverless cab, or would you feel hesitant?
I'd be very hesitant, and it would take years for me to do it.
Yeah.
Like waiting out front of your house? Like
Can I
years?
guess something about
No.
you? Because I think it's exact. I really prefer to drive. No, I mean, I really
Independent
prefer.
woman.
I would rather drive than have anybody else drive me around. Is that how you are?
Yes and no, because I'm perfectly fine with sitting in the passenger seat. It's more that my family always just jumped in the passenger seat to force me to drive.
Oh, so
The other thing is that the way my day works, I may think that I'm doing this now, but now there's 5 other things that I have to do.
yeah.
So I wouldn't be able to just tell somebody, take me to Richards, because there might be 5 other things I have to do before I get to Richards.
Oh, who was that guy that you did that post on Facebook? You said the Richard substitute.
The James
Oh,
substitute. Yes.
James substitute. Sorry.
That's one of my mom's things. She adopted a bunch of kids, and that kid was my replacement who took my name. And so I told you years ago that my mom registered me in school under her married name, not my name. So I had to go through the James W. Walker VII was born, lived a wonderful life for 4.5 years, and disappeared off the face of the earth as this other kid went to school, having never been born. And then James W. Walker VII went to college.
So you went to college without going to grade school or high school. Yeah.
Because
very-
I disappear
Yeah.
from
Well,
the record.
yeah.
And then my mom gives this kid the name that I had to masquerade under in school
Oh.
because she did that. And
So how confusing is that?
so I said, it's like James Bond.
Oh yeah, it's not a person. It's a
It's a
character.
title.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a character.
So
yeah.
I'm the Sean Connery,
Oh,
and he's the Pierce Brosnan.
I see.
Not the George Lazenby.
No.
Yeah. So
I love the fact that on The Simpsons, when somebody says James Bond, Marge says, George Lazenby? It's like, what?
But it's really something because that's the idea that James Bond, is a character, it's a title, because they say about how so many different people could do it, because nobody actually has a license to kill, because what that is under British law, you can't be prosecuted. If in the line of duty you kill people, it's the same as being a soldier, and if it's a lawful killing, then it's not a crime. And so, but the real thing about being a spy is it's opportunity. You cultivate people that are in opportune positions. Like none of us have a position of security. I'm as close as you'll get, and I don't know anything you can't find out publicly easily. Mm-hmm. I don't have access to anything that is that needs a security clearance. And so, what you do, the money isn't in, like being a doctor, the money isn't in seeing the patients. It's having a group of doctors or having a process. Being a spy master, being a handler, that's where the money is. Yeah. Not being the spy, but, and the people that are the active clandestine force for the CIA that are outside the U.S., they're incredibly physically fit. And they do look like me because I'm very forgettable. You wouldn't remember what I looked like 20 minutes from now. And these are people that they don't have. That's why I objected to Queen Latifah being saying she was in the CIA. She has a tattoo on her hand. That marks you right away.
Yeah.
If you get a tattoo on your face, people remember you in a second.
Yeah, that's true.
And you want to be nondescript.
Yeah.
If you have a long white beard, you stand out. If you have a tattoo on your face, you stand out. If you're 300 pounds, you stand out. If you're 100 pounds, you stand out.
Yeah.
And because the CIA jobs paid about 1/3 of what I would get paid working in the ED. They at the time paid $90,000 a year. And that was outside of D.C. You had to move there. And most of the people you'd see would be just orthopedic injuries, mostly knee injuries and elbows and shoulders, because these are people that are actually doing the spy stuff wherever, and they get dinged up. Also, every time somebody gets blown up in an explosion, every time they hit the ground, they would be busted into pieces, but also they would be deaf, that their ears would be blown out.
Wow. Yeah.
And also, if you shoot a gun next to somebody's ear, it'll start bleeding after it ruptures.
Yuck. All right, we have less than a minute left, so I'm making this announcement. So what were you going to say?
I was just going to say 2 things. Protests have to be effective. The bus boycott in Montgomery was effective because the white people needed the black people to subsidize
Yes, sir.
financially the bus department so that they were able to get to work. Sleeping on the White House lawn doesn't change a thing, as our friends the Goo Goo Dolls have told us. Also, I just wanted to say that the thing that every fight fan wanted was Mike Tyson versus Foreman. And they didn't get that because nobody wanted to put up the money. And he ends up getting beaten by Buster Douglas, which would have been Foreman had they booked the fight. The Democrats...
Talk about a non sequitur.
No.
Okay.
This is the
All
point.
right.
That's the high-end is this. The Democrats have done the Foreman thing by not giving us the bout we want, which is Trump versus Sanders.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you everyone for being here.
That'll be interesting.
And I
Trump versus-
will talk to you all again. Goodbye.